talk to people who are in what you want to do because no job is as dreamy as you think. I loved writing for the magazine, but you know what I didn't love? When we had products in and had a photographer come in and do photo shoots, I had to type up the labels to ship them back. So, nothing is as exciting as you think it's going to be.
Are you ready to quit your 9 to 5 job and start a business of your own? Well, you're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to the Second Act Success Career Podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell. I am a former television producer turned business owner, career transition coach, and boy mom. My mission is to help you produce your best life. This podcast will teach you how to get from where you are now to where you want to be and how to build a business that fits your life and lights you up. Let's get started. Hello there, and welcome back to the show. Today, we are talking all things LinkedIn and content marketing. Annette is a content marketing strategist. She is also working as a coach to help entrepreneurs, service providers, anyone who has an online presence get their businesses seen. Annette has a long and winding career path, from working at a magazine in New York City to bartending to being a recruiter and a LinkedIn and resume expert. She knows it all, and now she's really focusing her business on content marketing. If you have a business that you're trying to start or grow, or if you just want to increase your exposure online, then listen in for some amazing tips from my guest, Annette Richmond. Annette Richmond, welcome to Second Act Success.
Well, I am so excited to be here with you today, Shannon. We were chatting a little bit before we started going live here, and I'm so excited to chat with you. We've chatted before and eager to do it again.
Yes, I've met Annette via LinkedIn. I've been on her show, and I'm just so excited to have you here to talk about not only your career transitions, a lot of them, and just your expertise in the world of careers and marketing and LinkedIn and all of it. So, why don't you start by telling us where you began your career?
Okay, so I will say, and I talk about this all the time, any communication and comfort level I have chatting with people, interviewing, a lot of that comes from my early time as a bartender and part time disco DJ. If you've ever worked in the restaurant business, it is a great sort of learning place to chat with, communicate, get along with other people. At one point, I decided, sitting with my friends at the diner after work on a Friday night, that I did not want to become a diner waitress, the diner waitress dealing with all the drunken people at 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to go back to college. I had dropped out. I went back to school, and my dream was to be a writer. So I studied English and media. And so I learned how to write scripts, etc. And I was on air talent for our video news magazine and producer of the same magazine. I wrote and directed little movies and all of that stuff, which is where my current, my love of media really, really started. And I got my dream job. I was a magazine writer for a few years and then did some freelance writing after that. And it was very exciting. And that's where I think my comfort level of talking to people, interviewing them on my show, or just chatting with them comes from that because I was at a magazine where I had to go and chat with CEOs, company CEOs, to interview them for our publication. And then I twisted a little bit, went back to school, got a master's in psych because people fascinate me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I ended up in the career field where I was and still am slightly. My first job was at a training and placement facility for chronically mentally ill. So it was where I first got my sort of fingers into teaching and training because I created some of the programs that we taught. And really, clients came in for like, I think it was a 12-week sort of program. And they would learn, I taught them some basic business skills and we learned how, to think about what you might want to do. We had a placement arm as well. And it was just people who wanted to get regular jobs and need a little training. And I will tell you that those, clients were the most dedicated, hardworking people I have ever worked with. Some of them would get take a bus from where they were living to a train 45 minutes away, take the train, get off where we were, and take a bus every day while they were there. So that's how I fell into the career field and going through doing some workshops at consulting at corporations, et cetera. And I landed in the career field. So to just kind of wind this up, I was doing resumes, LinkedIn profiles, resumes initially, LinkedIn profiles, for mainly high level executives, which is also really fun. You get to meet and work with people doing, exceptional things. And I sort of, through the years, that was about a decade ago, I started working more in personal branding. And then last year, I shifted my career a little bit into more content marketing because I had so many colleagues DMing me and saying, Annette, how do I do this? And so that's where I am right now.
I love all of it, and I can see the thread, right? Going for your master's in psychology helped you work with people to get them their training to find
Mhm.
jobs, and it just all kind of came together organically.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that too. There was a little teaching at the universities, adjunct in between here, but yeah, there is kind of, I think, a thread to it.
Yeah, and your media background and your writing, and so when you started working on the resume aspect, right? Because you
Mhm.
actually had a resume writing firm, is that right?
No, I was not one of those people that had a firm with subcontractors working for me. It was always just me, and that was part of my selling point. But I will tell you that resume writing, like really any kind of writing, press releases, etc., is very specialized. So even though I wrote for a magazine and I had a lot of experience, and I think I'm a pretty good writer, I took actually an intensive training on how to write resumes before I started actually selling my services. So,
Mm. And what was that like with resumes? Were you getting people who came to you who had been out of the workforce for 10 years, maybe raising their kids, and then they needed help updating it, or were you getting people right out of college?
well, I worked with people kind of at all levels, but only for about a year. And then I found that most of my clients that I would ended up working with were senior level executives. And so I really streamlined and only worked with those clients for most of my time doing resumes. I mean, I still have clients come back to me and referrals and whatnot, but it's not a big part of my business any longer. But I found that senior level executives are sometimes easier to work with, although people think that maybe that can be intimidating because they are very clear on what they're looking for. They're very able to give you information and to share their accomplishments because they've risen by
Mhm.
accomplishing things. And so they're able to give you a lot of solid information so that you can create the resume that will sell them to potential employers.
And that led you into more of the content marketing piece, right? You've got your Black Dog marketing business.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
tell us what you do with that because I feel like you encompass a lot. You've got your LinkedIn aspect, you've got your podcasts. Tell us about everything that you do with that marketing business.
So, as we were talking a little earlier, it's content marketing is kind of a fairly large umbrella. That includes helping people with LinkedIn engagement, teaching them how to engage, working with their profiles, giving them advice, etc. But I say that my main business is helping sort of coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, and business owners to sort of raise their visibility and business growth on social media, which really means that I'm teaching them how to create content and sort of pushing them to step out of their comfort zone and do things like video, events, things like that, like LinkedIn Lives, podcasts, etc.
Yeah, and I think yours was the first LinkedIn Live that I had ever guested on, and you do that how many times a week do you do that now?
Just once a week. I
Okay.
do it once a week, but, I've learned and I think maybe since you were on my first podcast, which was really more like smarter career and business moves, and now it's content marketing school, which I'm excited to have you on soon. So I started my podcast during the pandemic because I had no business. Like a lot of people, I had no business. And I was talking to one of my friends who had a podcast, and I said, how do you do that? She goes, "Oh, I just read my blog." And I'm like, "Okay." I could do that. I have a lot of blog information. So I didn't exactly read my blog, but I used my blog posts as the sort of the content for all of my solo episodes. When I got LinkedIn Live, I applied for it. I was lucky to get it, and you still had to apply back in like 2021. So I started pushing the interviews up on my podcast as well. And that became the podcast that I had. Now, I will say over the years, I have learned from others to sort of automate my LinkedIn Live process, as you do as well, using the
Mhm.
calendar to book your guests rather than going back and forth. How about this time? No, that doesn't work. How about that time? So,
Makes it a little easier because 'cause you're doing it so often,
mhm.
and you're learning that with the podcast now that's more about content marketing, you're
Mhm.
teaching others probably about that, about getting their content and automating it and getting out there, because when you automate, you get to reach more people because you're working on the content itself and not the systems.
It is challenging. I am essentially a solopreneur. I get a little help here and there, but most of everything is done by me. Like most of my colleagues who are coaches and consultants, they may have an intern or maybe a VA a few hours a week, but most of the work is done by them. And having processes, doing things like having a show calendar, creating templates on Canva that you can just repurpose over and over again, finding inventive ways to come up with content ideas, save you time. AI, I've become really, I would say, more of an adopter than an explorer over the last couple of months. And I find that while, it doesn't replace you, I would never prompt, ChatGPT or Claude or something and say, write this for me and take it down and publish it. It can be very helpful to help you generate ideas.
Mhm. You're absolutely right. It just, especially when you feel like you've talked about the same thing for so long and you need, a new aspect to talk about. So, how is your podcast now? Tell me more about what you're talking about every week.
I want to highlight my guests and make them comfortable and make them feel like they want to come back. I have people come on and talk about so many different things. And I'm excited that I've had people say yes to me to come in and talk about something kind of a little bit outside their comfort zone. We chatted a bit about Lisa Morton, who we both know is
Mhm.
coming on my show to talk about being more creative and productive by feng shuiing your home office. I have a longtime buddy of mine who is a high level executive search partner, managing partner at an executive search firm, who's actually coming on my show to talk about building your communication skills through stand up comedy, because he also does that on the side. Marion Spears Carr is coming on for that. And I messaged him and said, "Hey, would you come on?" Because he came on my other show talking about recruiting. Would you come on and talk about that? He's like, "Yeah, sure." And, I had Kevin Turner, Mr. LinkedIn, come on last week and talk to me about building your YouTube channel because, he's done such a fabulous job. So I try to cover various areas because we all go about content marketing. We can't be on every platform.
Mm.
So I want to make sure that I'm trying to share content that will help people on various platforms and maybe share some things that will help them in their business as a whole.
Mhm. You work with coaches, service providers, business owners, because we are like you, Annette, like we're all of us just being that solopreneur and trying to do all the things and figure it out. And then you can do all the things perfectly and yet no one sees it. So then you're back to square one. That's where you come into play to teach us how to get our content and our expertise seen by other people. And I love that you can kind of dabble into the different platforms that are there on your show.
Yeah, I mean, what do you feel about that, Shannon? Are you also someone who, likes to batch your content? I mean, do you have similar strategies?
Yes, I do, but sometimes I feel like I do it all and I do it all really well, and yet I'm not getting the returns. I'm on all of the platforms and I feel like I need to back off a little bit. It's like TikTok, this, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I think my clients are because
Mhm.
I'm talking about career transitions and I need to get better at being on LinkedIn and really learn LinkedIn more so than Instagram, where I'm probably not reaching as many people.
Well, it's really interesting because, I've been recently hearing about LinkedIn. LinkedIn seems to have been pushing video more. And I love video. I mean, I'm a big fan of video and I try to push people to do it because I do think it helps people sort of get to know you.
Mm.
But I mean, I know it's not for everyone, but LinkedIn seems to be leaning into that. And I saw an example that they had posted on their site. And, it is very much the TikToky, Instagram reels that you would see on LinkedIn. And by the same token, I am fairly active on and off again on TikTok because I love the video. You may be aware of this also. You can now, because if are you on TikTok?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So on TikTok that news programs have been sharing, the landscape like YouTube dimension videos for a
Yeah.
long time because that's their format. And I've shared some too and done fairly well with them. I
Mhm.
always think it's really about the content. But TikTok has recently released a full screen button. So if you're watching one of my videos in landscape, there's a full screen button. You can push that and it will automatically turn the video so that you can watch it full screen on your phone with those dimensions. And then you can just hit this, there's a little arrow to hit it to take it back. And so I think that the differences, they seem to be more competing with each other. What I was reading is the idea that Microsoft believes that their viewers want more video, hence the push for video on LinkedIn. And then, for me personally, it seems to be maybe they're seeing TikTok as more competition and the vice versa with TikTok, wanting to grab some viewers maybe from YouTube. And so, I find it fascinating. I'm sure you're aware of all these things as well.
It is interesting, but I wasn't as aware of video in LinkedIn because I've always thought that I should not post my videos on LinkedIn, to be honest. Like I'll do it every once in a while, but I guess I don't see as many people posting videos on LinkedIn. And then it's more of like on my to-do list is to do more LinkedIn newsletters, because I feel like that's what I'm seeing from people that I follow, that I'm
Mhm.
connected with. But that I like the idea of more videos on there because if you have the video on TikTok, why not share it on LinkedIn as well?
'Cause I've been doing videos for quite a while, and did them all, most of them in sort of the square format that works
Mhm.
on LinkedIn. I think the best on LinkedIn, and it will work also on TikTok. But I have seen people increasingly, and I have myself shared videos from TikTok or in that format on LinkedIn. And now that they're testing this, hopefully, I would imagine they'd be rolling it out, and that would be even more incentive, I think, to create more videos and even use that more portrait format.
Well, what is your favorite platform talking about content marketing? What are your thoughts?
For me, it's LinkedIn for sure. I'm with you. One of the reasons is that people that, consultants, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs like us want to people to find us to hopefully engage us. Certainly, learn from us as well. I love to teach other people. And they have so many different formats. You can do video, you can do the carousel still or sliders, which are so get a lot of engagement. And now infographics are remember infographics? And now infographics are back again, plus text. There's just so much there. And the newsletters. I just increased my newsletter from once a month to twice a month. So I just started doing that. But I would say the second runner up to that for me would be TikTok. I do think it's an up and comer. I've done TikTok lives a couple of times and I have it on my list to, do more of them
That's
because
great.
I think people are there too.
I was always anti TikTok in the beginning, but now I realize that I'm addicted. Like I'll post something and then I just find myself scrolling. And I do watch it for news. It's a place where people spend time. And if they can catch you on it too, like all the better.
Oh, yeah. I follow some really smart business coaches on there. I follow a TikTok coach on there who is absolutely fabulous. Her handle is Mothership, Muther ship. And, she teaches all the latest tips and tricks. And, it makes me sad. Every once in a while, I hear someone who I'm guessing is maybe in their 50 ish, 40s, 50 ish, or maybe older saying, oh, I can't go on TikTok because my kids say I'm too old. And I'm like, no, No, the days of just, funny dog videos, although I love them, and, dancing grannies and all that, they're still on there, but it's really becoming more and more, I think, business focused. It's my first place to go if I want to learn to do something.
I completely agree, and my kids make fun of me that I'm on it, but I'm like, "Well, I'm on it for business. I'm on it for work." But then I'll be like, "Oh, I heard this on TikTok today," and they're like, "Oh, mom." But it's my favorite place to hang out, I think, more so than Instagram, and I was big on Instagram for a while and just always hanging out there, but now it's TikTok, and I need it to be a little bit more LinkedIn. And I do want to ask you because you have such a LinkedIn background, if someone is thinking about career change, a lot of my clients have not been on LinkedIn in 10 plus years because they've
Mhm.
been at their job. I urge people to update their LinkedIn and keep it updated just like you would keep your resume updated so you have it ready. A big question I get, and I actually had a talk I did last week with a bunch of younger alumni from my university. And I was talking to them and they said, "Well, I want to change careers, but my LinkedIn says I'm doing this." And I always say to make your LinkedIn for what you're moving towards as best you can, gear it towards
Mhm.
what you are applying for. What are your thoughts about that and how you can frame your LinkedIn in a good way for the career transition you're going after?
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And as I know, LinkedIn is sort of the favorite place for recruiters to fill open positions. And I will just share a quick story from my time as a recruiter because before I got into the whole resume writing, I spent a couple of years working as a recruiter, third party contingency in the digital marketing space. And I was looking for someone to fill a position as a social media marketing or something like that. And I found a few people. I contacted one, a young woman, and had her send me a resume. Looked great. I got on the phone with her and I'm talking about the position, and I'm like, I hear nothing. And as I'm sitting there, I finally said, are you interested in this position? She's like, no, not really. I'm like, okay, so what is it that you want to do? And she wanted to be, I don't know, project manager or something like that. So the lesson that I take away from that is yes, you are doing what you're doing, but there's no need reason to scream about it. Now, on her resume and on her LinkedIn, she had where she was out speaking about social media and she was doing this about social media, even though she did not want to stay in that field. And one of the things that I always suggest with the clients that I've worked with is to choose, because the about section obviously is important, to choose 3 areas that they kind of might wanna be known for. Now, my clients, it varies by clients. My clients, it would often one of it might be leadership. One is specific to the industry, marketing, and the other one might be developing, staff or something like that. And you don't have to have a staff in order to be developing other people. If you're helping other people and you're helping them and they grow, that counts too.
Mm.
So you can pick a few things and you want to pick things. My suggestion is to pick things that you want to do in your next position. You don't want to talk about, for me, posting on LinkedIn. I write resumes very little now. So I'm not talking about resumes all the time. I'm talking about video. I'm talking about content marketing. I'm talking about LinkedIn lives, etc. Because you want to get people to know you for what you want to be talked about. And those keywords, where they go on LinkedIn, certain sections more
Mhm.
important.
Okay. That is such great advice. And what a great example of that story because you're right. If you're shouting from the rooftops that you write resumes and that's what's on there, that's what people are going to reach out to you about. And why waste anyone's time? Start getting it updated. And there's nothing worse than someone who's been at the same job for 20 years, then they've been out of the workforce for a certain number of years, and now they're trying to get back in and they have to redo everything. It seems very overwhelming.
Also, if I could just share one more example from a
Please.
client that I worked with. I worked with a woman several years ago who had been working in PR for some fairly large US companies. And she was now living abroad. I forget exactly where she was living. She was living abroad for a variety of reasons. And she had started her own business. She created the website and she did all the back end. She had this product she created, she was selling. So when we worked together and she wanted to go back into this whole PR, marketing area, we didn't talk about building the website. We didn't talk about creating the product. We talked about how the strategy she used to create her newsletter list to attract clients for her company. And we focused on that aspect because that's what she wanted to do. And so the same thing with LinkedIn or a resume for someone who wants to shift gears. And the one last thing that I would like to add is volunteering is work too. So even if you're volunteering, as long as you identify it as volunteer in the little description, I use that with clients that I work with because work is work.
Mhm. I love that you brought that up because I wanted to ask you about women who are home raising their kids and they're ready to get back into a working 9 to 5 type of role. I often say the volunteering, if you're PTA president, anything that you did because raising a family is a job. So,
Mhm.
do you have any experience with that and how they can take all of those years being home and put that on their LinkedIn or resume?
Like you, I would lean into I don't have kids, so I don't have that background. I have dogs. So
Yes.
they're my
Same thing,
kids.
same thing.
And then that's where my company name comes from, our dogs. But I would say the volunteering, and I think, and you can, back me up on this, part of the reason that employers are concerned about hiring someone who's been out of the workforce is because they don't know if their skills are up to date. So you can take a course, you can go to a conference, you can do things like that where you're learning. And if you're volunteering, let's say you work in marketing and you want to volunteer for an organization that supports rescue dogs. Maybe you want to do their PR or do some marketing for them so that you can use the skills, or you mentioned the PTA. So maybe you're on the PTA, but you're doing all of the marketing and you're getting the coverage in the newspapers for the events that the PTA is doing. And that is where you can show you're doing something and you're doing something in your area of expertise that you want to be showing.
Brilliant, and it's very creative, and that's what it is. It's taking all of your experience and just really getting creative with it to gear it towards what it is that you want to do. Oh, such good
Exactly.
advice. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your business and how people can find you and really how you work with clients.
First of all, you can find me on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn every day. Annette Richmond, that's my name on LinkedIn. You can find links to my company there. It's Black Dog Marketing Strategies. And you can also find links to free resources, et cetera, et cetera. So I work with clients primarily. It's coaching at this point. I have like a 2-week intensive that you can do with me to if you decide, okay, I'm going to start doing videos now and let's get going. I am actually be launching soon a video course, which I'm excited about because I found a way that I can actually be on my phone. As you know, that short form video, you're using that phone where I can be on my phone and record it on my computer so that I'm actually able to demonstrate everything I'm doing as part of the program. So I'm really excited about that.
That's great because that's where the video comes from. It comes from your hand in the phone.
I know, it's so funny, and I'm sure hear this as well. People are like, "Oh, what should I do? Do I get the mic? Do I get the this? What do I do?" And it's like everything you need is in your hand. It's in your phone. Yes, you can get an expensive lav if you want to. You can get lights and things, but you don't have to have them. And even if you're live streaming like this, I have a nice mic now, but I started with a very inexpensive microphone. And then when Amazon Prime comes around, I'm like, oh, let me grab that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, it's time for our 5 fast cues of the week. Here we go. Name one thing that these different chapters in your life have taught you.
That I really enjoy learning and sharing what I learn with others.
Would you recommend taking a leap into a big life change to your best friend?
Absolutely. I have shifted gears so many times, including I did a little stint when I got tired of bartending, grooming dogs for a summer. So, I think there's different jobs teach you different things, and it's really hard. I've been there working in a job that just sucks the soul right out of you. So I would say yes.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's about to start their second act?
Learn as much as you can about it so that you will have realistic expectations. For example, you might have to make less money, take a pay cut in corporate, or if you're an entrepreneur and you're shifting your business, it might slow down. It might not. Talk to people who are in what you want to do because no job is as dreamy as you think. I loved writing for the magazine, but you know what I didn't love? When we had products in and had a photographer come in and do photo shoots, I had to type up the labels to ship them back. So, nothing is as exciting as you think it's going to be.
Hmm. And you always go back to that when you think back to those jobs, right? The glamorous jobs. And I remember working in Times Square for MTV and having to schlep bags up and down from 45th to 50th. We had two different office buildings, and I was a production assistant. And we had beta tapes way back when, these big, thick tapes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we would have to stop along the way. These bags were so heavy, or just running and getting coffee, just all that stuff. But that's what sticks out and not so much the glamorous fun stuff when you think
Oh
back.
yeah, look, I got to it was a small publication, so when we had the photographer come in, I got to work with her when she was doing the cover shots. I got to travel. I actually went to Italy on to a trade show.
Oh,
There are a lot of fun things, but no job is when I say, "Oh, as a magazine writer," people are like, "Oh, I hear you talking about working at MTV." And I'm like, "Wow, that's really cool." But,
yeah. But then it's also at this age, right? If we're in a different part in our life, like you think about that, and maybe you don't want to be our age and typing out these labels and doing that
right.
stuff. Like you can be more picky when you're in midlife and you're making that change because you're educated, you've been there, and now you know what you want. So I agree with you. Learning, I always say, learn before you leap, right? Know what you're getting into.
That's good. Learn before you leap. I like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, what does the next act look like for you?
Well, I would say I'm in it right now.
Yeah.
I shifted my business just about a year ago. And so I would say for me, I am loving this. It excites me to work with clients more, coaching them to do something, helping them do videos, etc. And I would say that my goal is to be doing more online programs, that type of thing, rather than the one on one, because you can only do so much one on one. I'm really enjoying it. As I say all the time, I love, love, love media, so gives
Mhm.
me opportunity to use a lot of it.
And you know all the aspects of media. You really, really do. So we talked about where my audience can connect with you. I will link to everything in the show notes as well. And Annette Richmond on LinkedIn, and then Black Dog Marketing Strategies is her company. And Annette, I just adore talking to you. I adore following you on social. And thank you so much for sharing your experience, your transitions, and all of your advice. It's been wonderful.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much. I enjoyed chatting with you as well, and I'm so delighted that you invited me to come on your show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments, and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success.